Welcome to the second result webinar of the Future Resilience Project. I am Matias Barberis. I'm the coordinator of the project, a researcher at Epicenter. And today I'm sharing the floor with this virtual floor with Fernando Garcia from Universidad Politécnica de Cartagena from Spain, and Bernardo López also from the Agencia Local de Energía de Murcia, from the Municipality of Murcia. We're also with Sofia Burioli from the Municipality of and also part of the Times Lab, and Andrea Fabri from the Fondazione Iurus Conigigi, also part of the Times Lab. I'm Steph Vandenberg from the University of Groningen. We will have a better presentation of all of them later on, and Fabiola Onofrio that will be taking care also of the moderation, and she's from the University of Ferrara. So let me briefly share with you some of the a very brief introduction to the webinar today and to the project. So today's project is the second of a series of 5 webinars that we will be having to showcase the results of the 10 Future Resilience Labs that recently closed their activities in terms of the main process that they are having as part of the project. So today we are going to showcase 2 of them, the Murcia and the Times Lab, that were working around climate disasters and resilience. So as I presented them today, this will be the agenda. We will be going through the Murcia Lab, then the Times Lab, then the commission research that we did with the University of Groningen from the Netherlands that were working on the resiliency profile of Canary Island. And then we will have a moment for questions and answers. In any case, maybe in terms of practicalities, you can use either the chat system or the question and answers button to put your questions. And after each presentation, we will pick either 1 or 2 questions, and then we will have a final commenting and moderated discussion at the end of the 3 presentations. A little bit about the project. So the project is a 3-year European funded project that is finishing on 2025. And it's aiming to strengthen actually economic and societal resilience through an enhanced ability to adapt and quickly respond to future crises, with this idea of we don't know what the next crisis will be or when it will be, but more likely anything could happen. So we need to be ready and enhance preparedness for what's coming next. And we are doing that through experimentation with these 10 Future Resilience Labs that we set up in 2023, and they were working for a bit over 15 months with foresight and participative methodologies together with the community, policymakers, to tackle different range of challenges, including, as we are working today, on climate disasters. We're working on cybersecurity, healthcare systems, housing issues, or social integration. That was our previous webinar, and they are distributed all over Europe, as you can see here in the map. A bit behind the scenes, this is a consortium made of 14 partners, plus all the institutions that were part of the 7 labs that were selected through an open call. So you can see some of our pictures here of our gatherings in Ferrara, also in Sweden, from our simulation activity that we carried out in the Mid-Sweden University. And actually, you have a lot of information on the website that you can navigate to understand a bit what we have been doing also in some of our main activities like the simulation one. Some key facts and figures. So as I mentioned, we had 3 labs that were part of the consortium, but then we ran an open call for selecting 7 additional labs. We received 45 applications from 21 countries, also requesting 2.6 million in terms of funding, and we granted 403,000 euros for these 7 labs. Also, in terms of stakeholder engagement, I think it's worth mentioning we engaged with more than 130 stakeholders all over Europe, running 40 workshops in these 15 months. We also held 5 thematic webinars with more than 200 attendees. And we also organized 3 policy roundtables at the beginning of this year, including 27 policymakers from the different labs that were engaging in very rich discussions about the different topics that the labs were working upon. And well, we have reached a key milestone with over 1,500 followers on LinkedIn. So if you want, you can still keep following us and get the latest project and of the different labs. Sorry, this is a bit of the methodological approach. So you can see it's a bit of a schematic figure in which all the labs were working actually from a phase of framing the different challenges that they were working with, and then they applied the scenario development as a foresight approach to see how the different challenges could evolve in the future, how they could look like in 15, 20 or 30 years in the future. And then from there, we did the policy testing phase in which they were developing different policy solutions to see how they fit these different scenarios. Of course, each of the labs had a bit of a flexibility also to adapt and maybe adopt other type of techniques and methodologies, and we will see some of them today as well. But in practice, this is how it looks like. So we wanted to share a bit of the pictures of different labs, working with different stakeholders, using maps, using participatory approaches, using prototyping, using also science fiction, also to think about the future. So during these 5 webinars that we are going to, we are organizing these 2 or 3 months until July, you can see how the different labs approach the working with the challenges and contributing to create resilience at local level. Maybe worth to mention, our labs were working with evidence-based solutions. So they were working on a knowledge base, which is openly available on the website of the project, and you can already navigate and discover more than 600 policy solutions that has to do with resilience in different areas. You can already also share with your local policymakers or with other stakeholders the policy brief that we have created on already. One it's on labor market, the other one is on the use of foresight, one is on social integration, and this week we are launching a 5th policy brief on healthcare systems. You can also navigate the labs flyers in the local languages if you prefer, and also check on our YouTube channel for the different videos of the thematic webinars, and also all these results webinar will be available afterwards on YouTube. And if you want to go more in depth into the technical reports, we have another page in which all the information that we are producing is stored there. Maybe just a little moment of publicity for the next upcoming month. This is the 2nd webinar, as you can see here, on climate disasters and resilience, but then we have still 3 more to go on urban planning, housing and resilience, digitalization and resilience, and data governance and resilience. So until the middle of July, we are still running 3 more webinars that you can already register and join us in the coming weeks and months. So saying that, I will just pass the floor to our first lab. That's the main idea of this webinar, that we can share their perspective. So I will introduce Fernando García Martín, which is a professor at the Universidad Politécnica Cartagena and leading the Murcia lab in Spain. So Fernando, floor is yours.
Okay, good morning to everyone. As Matthias says, thank you for the presentation. I will show some of the results of our Murcia lab, which was also related to the climate resilience of the urban area. Yeah, it's working. Our lab was coordinated by a team for 2 of the institution. My university is the Universidad Politécnica de Cartagena, in which we were a team of architects, agricultural engineers, civil engineers, and also urban planners. Also, we were working in coordination with the Ayuntamiento de Murcia, with the municipality of Murcia, and in particular with the office of the local offices of energy and climate change, which specifically with Bernardo Lopez, which is here in this morning also in the webinar. Our lab was focused in the climate change adaptation of urban areas. We were focused in our city of Murcia, which we are in the southeast of Spain. We try to focus how to manage the key hazards related to the climate change. So we try to pass from this key hazard that the European Union have identified, like related with the climate change in Europe, and try to focus on what happened, what the adaptation of urban area, in particular with two neighborhoods of the city of Murcia, which is the neighborhood of Vista Alegre and the area of Espinardo, which are in the north part of the main city. So that was one starting point of our lab, which is focused in this really neighborhood scale of the urban adaptation. In this area, we were managing or we were facing three main challenges. First one is reducing the flooding impacts that are present in this area related to the already existing raining system. Also to reduce the urban heat island impacts that are present in this area because our climate is characterized by heavy, slow, or a few rains, but we're also with that are concentrated in a small episode or some days that are the rains are really heavy, and also to have a really warm weather, but that it could be a bit hot or hot during the summer. And then we have also another challenge, which is more related on how the city contributes to this climate change. So we were also focusing on how to increase the capacity and the compactness of the city in order to reduce all the consumes emissions that could affect the climate change. We use the methodological approach that is common to the project. So that's a part of the future resilient objective that trying to offer a method of that could be working in different labs with different purpose. So starting with the diagnosis and frames part of the problems, and then we were using a lot of time or big amount of time of our lab in the development of scenarios. We were working for that with two different workshops. And finally, we have a phase that focuses on policy testing, and that was our third workshop. In this part of framing the problem, making the diagnosis of this, how are affecting these hazards related to climate change to our two neighborhoods, we started making a mapping of the vulnerabilities. We already know from what are the areas that could be, for example, as we can see here, that we could be affected by floods. But we were working on in these areas, which buildings, for example, are vulnerable to this flooding area. Let's say, for example, and then which one of the buildings that are into the flooding areas have houses on the ground floor, so population that is more exposed or more vulnerable. And also, we're trying to focus or to map the vulnerabilities of these neighborhoods to the urban heat island, trying to identify which buildings are or were built with regulation about isolation of the building, they were more flexible than the one that we already have now, so that buildings could be more vulnerable. Also, we were making a map of the capacity of the city related to the access to public transport facilities, so on. Okay. As part of the starting part of our lab, we were defining and analyzing which are the stakeholders that we are going to or we wanted to be involved in our lab. So a big part of them was the technical or the techniques that are involved in the climate change adaptation. Some of them like part of the government, both of the local and regional government. We involve people from different areas, like people working directly with climate change, with environment and green areas, to also with the urban planning and infrastructure, but also working with people that are related to the public health, to the emergency service, and to the water management. Okay. We were working also with techniques, that are the Professional Association of Architectural, Geographer, Urban Planning, Biologists, Infrastructure, as representative of the society. But we involved also the neighborhoods. One trying to include in our workshop the staff of the public facilities in these neighborhoods, but also representatives of the citizen in the district council, and also some representatives of citizen association that are already sit in the city of Murcia. Okay. So with this framing and these stakeholders, we started the definition of the X scenario, the future scenario, with the workshop one, which is focused in the selection of key factors, and also which would be the projection of these factors. So we prepare and we did this workshop at it was in April of 2024. We started trying to select which are the big factors related to climate change adaptation to this challenge in these neighborhoods. So we started with a factor long list that we collect from an online form, and also for the work that the different groups of the assistant to the workshop, to the stakeholders do during the workshop. We select the key factor using these diagrams of impact and authenticating, trying to identify which are the factors that have more impact, but we doesn't know which will be the future of them, so they are more uncertain. Okay. And so we select in this way these 8 key factors. Some of them are for example, is the citizen awareness and education related to this problem. Other part of the factor are related with the solutions that could be implemented, or the action that transformation of the city of these 2 neighborhoods that could be implement. Using nature-based solutions or increase of the vegetation, and also modification of the mobility system to make it more sustainable. The conservation of the traditional irrigation system was like a really local factor that it was highlighted like a key factor during the workshop, because this, as you can see, in this city, is surrounded by the green agricultural land with this traditional irrigation system that is also crossing this urban area. So it was like an opportunity to have also some water in the urban area. There is also like some more structural factor, like the financing and economic sustainability, also the water management with all the infrastructure related to that, and also like to use a governance system oriented to the resilience. So that was our key factor. like I say, some of them are related to the implementation of action into the city, and other are related with the education and the governance system. So in the second part of this first workshop, we were working with different, what could be the projection in the future of each one of these key factors, trying to see what could be or what the stakeholder think that could be the expected evolution, what could be the development that could be divergent to what is expected now, but also even what could be like disruptive or very different to what could be expected, and also some scenarios or some projection really with a shift of the paradigm that of how we see nowadays these factors. So in that way, we could have from each one of the factors, here is only two of them, how it could be the projection of the factor in the future. So that was the base that we use or the starting point that we use in the second workshop when the assistant were building X scenarios. That workshop was missing at the end of September of 2024. And we use this morphological table, that we call it in the project, to define what could be the X scenarios of the future as a combination of the different projections of the factor. Okay, so let's say that in the workshop we use this table that each one of the table have to select or have to define a future scenario selecting from the first words for one of the key of the factor what could be the future, and then for the second factor, third, fourth, fifth. So in that way, they create each one of the tables. They create two scenarios of future, and that was our way to manage that. We don't know how it's going to be the future related to this factor, but we have 6 different scenarios, so the future probably is going to be something in between or similar to some of them. Okay. To make this scenario more real, let's say we try to we ask to the assistant that they draw how the neighborhoods will look like under each one of the scenarios. So we provide them some of citizens of the areas. We ask them to draw how will be this citizen of this place of the city in each one of the scenarios. So we were also using the architects, urban planning, and all the techniques and stakeholders that they know how to draw to use this part, and finally they share each other. Okay, so that way we can then after the workshop we could manage, and we could work still working internally the research team and the municipality team to the scenario refinement. We try to transform and to make a synthetic view of how these citizens will look in the future of this of each one of these scenarios. So we were working with that with some EA software, and also drawing by hand or drawing with the team of how it could be, let's say, these scenarios in the future. After these two first workshops, we have these scenarios. They are a combination of the key factors. So we use them as the final part of the project to test different policies in each one of the scenarios. So we have this workshop at the beginning of this year in January. In this for this workshop we provide the assistant with a selection of policies that could be used. That some of them are part of the future resilient knowledge base. Matthias already talked about this knowledge base. It's already available in the project website. But we also complete the list of policies to test with other the policies that are included in other European Union funded project that were not included in the knowledge base of the project, but also some other policies and actions that were implemented in the region of Murcia or in Spain that we identified along the project. Okay. So we have a list of 30 policies. So what we find that it could be useful to work with policies during the workshop, and even to give some structure about how to respond to the adaptation of climate change in this area, is to classify this policy, because we have some of them that are related to new data, action aiming to obtain new information and data about this risk. Some of them are also related with the plans and strategy, or to define how it could be the strategy to make this adaptation all the time. Other are related directly with intervention and project that could be implemented in a specific part and points of the neighborhoods. And then we have also some other policies that are related with the managing of the emergency episode moments that it could be happen. Other ones that are related with the governance of the how the administration is organizing itself, and of course some part of the policy that are related with the evaluation of the policy that is what it could be implemented earlier. So in that way, we have this list of policy. We create a policy card that with a brief resume of which one is of how it's each one of them. So some of them are related to create thermal maps of the city, but it could be more accurate than the simulation that already have. Could be also policies that like construction of shelters for flooding episodes. Also to create a library of message that it could be sent to the population under the risk situations. Okay, and so for example, try to include the nature-based solution in the local policy, like something structural, and of course in the budget of the local municipality. Okay. So we test each policy in the different scenarios. For that, we provide the assistance to the workshop with the policy card, with the panels of the scenario, this resume or this synthetic view of the scenario that they create in the second workshop. We ask them to have to make an individual assessment of each policy. So they could assess and evaluate with this green and red point and blue points how they think that each one of the policy could be implemented in, or could be more useful or less useful, or even something that could be that could have some negative effect in each one of the scenario. And of course, we have a plenarium part of the workshop to test all this, or to share the evaluation and the assessment of each policy. So as conclusion, we get or I think we got some achievements. One of them is to generate useful knowledge to strengthen the resilience to the climate change impact in the urban area of the municipality of Murcia. We identify the area that are more exposed and then they are even more vulnerable according to these vulnerability maps. We identify a list policies that could be implemented, and of course, and also like this classification in different types of policies that could be some order to the big amount of things that could be now, policies related to the generation of new data, to the design of plans and strategies, to the project to intervene and to transform the city directly, also to the emergency management measures that could be implemented, and then the change in the governance system and the evaluation of the adopted action that is also an important part. We use these foresight techniques that allow us to have a long-term view and make possible a better management of the uncertainty that could be present in the future. Working with these foresight techniques, we also highlight that it could be probably necessary and useful a continuous update to the adaptation strategies, thinking that if we take some measures, probably then the next policy that we are going to have, it have to change also because of the steps that we already could be down in the process. And also we get to evaluate up to 30 different policies and actions that could be useful in these potential scenarios of future. This evaluation include the diverse or the different perspectives that have the different techniques that are involved in the urban adaptation. We were also surprised that there was a high degree of consensus between the stakeholders that participate in the workshop. Okay, so also we highlight that is the need to face the challenge with diverse solution. It's not only one policy or one solution that could help for itself to solve the problem. So and facing this complexity of action that have to be made requires so like new governance system that involve the different stakeholders, the different section of the urban municipality that are working in these things, the people from local and regional systems. So it could be a big challenge to change this governance system to focus and to be able to implement and coordinate the action to the climate change adaptation. Okay, so that's one of the key points about this policy. That is not one of the policies that were considered sufficient or enough on their own. We find also that is what we call a paradox of adaptation under dramatic emergency, because in the scenario that were more pessimistic than we read, some of the measures oriented to the adaptation were rated that they couldn't be maybe useful, because under this dramatic or pessimistic scenario, the action directly focuses on the reconstruction, like and the rebuild, like something new. It will be more useful than the one-to adaptation. So this is a paradox, as we say, that between adaptation and reconstruction, independent of the scenario that we will have in the future. Also, we see that in the scenario that were more optimistic, if that let's say that as part of our K factor were also like some intervention and some measures and policies have been implemented. If we see that if in the scenario that include the future of this factor as some measures were already taken, some of the policies could be considered in this future like something less useful, because as we already have some achievement, maybe we also will have to change our focus. So it's also like this need of the adaptation plans to align the new measures with the progress that we already made. Okay. Yeah. Finally, also we see or we're discussing that this a priority of action take action to improve the adaptation at this scale, over like change the regulation of how to make this or how to implement this action, because with the assistant we were discussing that focusing to change the regulation system that allow us to take these measures. It will take a lot of time, but with finally the results wouldn't be really different. Okay, so yeah, thank you for attention. Gracias. That was resume of our lab focused on the resilience to climate change in the urban environment in the city of Murcia. Yeah, that's get in touch with us in the future.
Thank you, Fernando, very much. There are a couple of questions for you. I will start with the first one from Miguel in the chat. And they want to ask you if there is any findings surprising any way, or the results more or less expected. And did you find the process useful? And if it was useful, in which way?
Probably for us the using this method and this foresight techniques allow us to also to see this adaptation process like a process. So if we take some steps or we make some action and implement some policies, probably that will make that in the future after that measure will taken, some other so then the priority will change. And this is not something that we can justify now, or how it would be the plan, or how would you start the strategy. But that's something that we are going to have to be updating like continuously.
Thank you. And another question from Matthias. He asked you if you could explain and share a bit more about the crowd mapping exercise done at the beginning of the lab, and how the municipality reacted at the policy solution proposed in terms of possible plan for implementation in short, medium, or long term.
Okay. Yes, as part of the framing of the problem, also we make a crowd mapping in the area in the city of Vista Bella, or in the neighborhood, sorry, of Vista Bella. We make a workshop of 2 days. The first day we give to the assistant some, let's say, formation or basic information about what is the urban heat island and what are the factors that that make that some urban area could be more vulnerable or less vulnerable. And then in the second part, with this knowledge, let's say we send them to the street to evaluate and to make an assessment of the neighborhood of Vista Alegre. Also, we were then like checking the result of this crowd mapping with the simulation of the urban heat island. It has some really were similar, like in the way of which area are more vulnerable, so are more could be more affected to the urban heat island, with the simulation using the system or some informatic techniques, with the simulation, let's say that we do in the crowd mapping. So that maybe is open the possible path to use or to map these effects, or which are the more vulnerable parts of the city, also using the citizens, and not only using the informatic techniques and so on. Related with the municipality reaction, so Bernardo is here. Municipality of Murcia have a climate change adaptation plan and also a mitigation plan. So what we are trying to get this plan start to consider like the different types of measure. Let's say, okay, we need new data, we need that strategy, we need that. So we try to have a more maybe this kind of structure with this kind of classification of different measures. Yeah, and also I hope that the using of foresight techniques, the create of the scenario, it could be maybe also implemented in the updating of these plans in the future.
Thank you very much. And now it's time for Times Lab. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Fabiola. Nice to meet you again. And I'm Sofia Burioli from the Municipality of Cesena, lead partner of the Times Lab. And I kindly ask Andrea Fabri to share the presentation. Andrea is part of the project team from the Fondazione Urbana. That is our main technical partner from Bologna City, expert in designing and developing participatory process. The other key partner of the team was ANCI, the National Association of Municipality, that was a key stakeholder in terms of communication and dissemination of the Times Lab outputs. And of course, we work a lot with some members of the Future Resilience, in particular the University of Ferrara and all the team of the EFIS Center. Next slide, please. Okay, so Times Lab responded really to a new concrete need that the municipality of Cesena, located in the Emilia-Romagna, born after the serious flood we have in the region in May 2023 that involved 44 municipalities located in 5 provinces in all the Romagna region. During the emergency, we have this great phenomenon of a mass mobilization of volunteers, mainly young people and students, that spontaneously intervene to support the population. This, in terms of community resource, this is a great issue in terms of solidarity, self-organization, resilience. But during these days, as municipalities, we had a lot of a critical issue in terms of logistical problems for the official rescuers that sometimes was difficult to intervene in the affected areas because there are a lot of people along the street, especially in the first 48 hours after the flood. So looking at this photo, we start to frame the problem and design the labs with some key questions. So who are these people? Why and where? In which part of the city they intervene? How did they communicate using informal network, informal channel? And of course, the main key question is how in the future we can reach these people, communicate with them, try to train and to build a capacity building process to face new future emergencies. So starting from these key questions, next slide. We try to design 3 main challenges. The first one is to try to increase the capacity of the local civil protection system to try to engage, communicate, and manage with this group of spontaneous volunteers. We want, of course, strengthening local community, prepare the people for future emergency, and starting exactly from their experience in the flood. And the communication is the third challenge, communication between the volunteer and the municipality, but also internal communication. These challenges are framing within three cross areas, so the civil protection, the community welfare, and digital and communication. Try to mapping the community resource. This is one of the main activities in the labs. The second step will be to focus on the governance to improve the civil protection system. And the third layer will be to try to focus on digital and inclusive communication tools to try to manage this flux of people and preparing the city for future emergencies. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the overall method approach. I want to say that in our case, we really need to simplify a little bit the foresight method and the framework of the future resilience projects, because here we are dealing with a group of people that are really hit of this catastrophe in our city. Times Lab was really the first time for our community to try to discuss on this trauma. So we are dealing with emotion, we are dealing with personal feelings, with memories, with the fear, frustration. So we try to design a community capacity building process, try to mix different tools and create comfortable zone for this group of people, stakeholder and association, to really try to speak for the first time. And in that sense, we really also try to design and use the scenarios in a positive way, but Andrea will explain you. Here's some insight from the method. We have the data collection through questionnaire and focus group, the stakeholder engagement with some info day, and the internal lab with some technicians. Here in red, you can see the core of the process with the 3 workshops of the co-design, and the final result presentation and the final event that is really a key point in this approach. Our stakeholder, our colleagues really want to have a public space in front of the city to tell about their experience. So we organized last week a 2 days event open to school and citizens to really talk about Times Lab. In parallel, we organized also public seminars with a pool of experts of national and regional level, because we need to work with the wider public on the psychological trauma, on the climate change, of course, risk mitigation and other topics. And in the process, we also incorporate high schools in different activities. Next slide, please. What evidence we use? So for data collection, we really collect and start to concrete data and experience from the flood. As I told you, we really are in a concrete and real-time process. So here is the main tool we use. The first one is the SOS Volunteers platform that was used during the flood to manage the volunteer. It was from a private donor. It's not a tool from the municipality. And we have some information of members that was resident in Cesena, and we know that most of people intervened was single citizens not belonging to association. The second key activities to try to frame the challenge was to organize a specific focus group with key stakeholders. The first group of association are dealing with the Abdon Milani, that was an high school dedicated to manage and communicate and also provide logistical platform for the volunteering during the flood. We also work with the 3 main flooded districts, with the president, so with the council of the district. And then we have specific focus group with the municipality that this is one of the key stakeholders in the process. We have a dedicated activities with all the departments that are dealing with communication, website, ICT technologies, and also GIS department. And then we also organized a specific focus with the support units for civil protection that are a novelty in terms of governance. And then we will have an online questionnaires. Finally, we collect 40 questionnaires for volunteering that Andrea will present you. Next slide. Here you can see the core group of the stakeholders that really participated in the process and in the workshop co-design. Of course, we design a stakeholder matrix that are bigger, but here I select for you the core group because it's interesting to understand what kind of governance we set. The first layer, of course, is the policy maker, and I told you about this support unit for civil protection that is a novelty at regional level. During the emergency, 80 public employees from different municipal sectors and departments were volunteers during the emergency. Times Lab was the place in which this group of people from the municipality, they are formally part of 5 units. Each of the units have a specific competence dealing with supporting the system of the civil protection. And during the Times Lab, we work a lot with these colleagues to train with them and to try to understand how we can use this new resource from the municipality in the policy challenge dealing with volunteers in the city. Then we establish a formal working table, not only with the civil protection, but also with the communication office, the participation office dealing with association and districts, of course, my office and the mayor's staff, because we really need the commitment from the early step of the process. At regional level, we work a lot with the agency for the civil protection of the Emilia-Romagna region that have a dedicated staff for managing volunteering. So in terms of best practices and regional committee, we really want to involve them. And then we have different associations from Abdo, Milani, and the high school. In the project, we wrote that we really want to work with the university, and this is one of the challenges we can't face. It was very hard to reach the university campus, and so we need more time because it's very time consuming to try to have the students of university within the process. So this is for next steps after Times Lab. It's a new challenge. So we focus mainly on the high school. And then you have here supporting actors. We have a pool of researchers and also scientific community and media local following the process. Next slide, please. Yeah, now I just pass the floor to Andrea. Andrea, it's your turn now to continue the presentation because we want to present you some insight of the questionnaires. Andrea will present you the detail of the workshop and the tools, and finally I will close with sharing some lesson learned and new challenge. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Sofia. Can you hear me? Yeah. So I put the time and I'll go a little bit quick. We choose some data from the questionnaire only to focus and the data more important for the process. So sorry, they are in Italian, but I will translate. So yeah, you can see the age. So the respondent, the vast majority of the respondents were age 31 and more, and mainly the 60% of them have a job, and 20% were students. So here, this is important because the 80% of them stated that they volunteered as a single, as individual. So that's important because, as Sophia has said before, there was this huge spontaneous volunteers, and this data confirm this mass mobilization. And in fact, more than half of respondents stated that they went around the city and intervened where in the areas that needed the most, whereas around 20% of them stated that they volunteer in Don Milani hub, an important hub of the city. Yeah, that's the last result is interesting because when we ask participants, the respondents, which channels they use to stay updated, the most important one, they said there were the website and the social channel of institutions such as the municipality or the civil protection. But when we ask them what kind of communication tools they use to participate in volunteering activities, the most important ones were the group chat on WhatsApp, Telegram, and the personal chat on the same channels, whereas the social channels of institution lost importance and was as important as the word of mouth and the neighborhood network. So some key elements we choose, as Sophia said, to focus only on one scenario, namely flood, because it was close to the citizens' experience. There are still alive emotions and memories. We focus during the process we focus on the Cesena future, so Cesena 2050, and we use a positive storytelling, so in order to avoid feeling of fear, anguish, and anxiety. And so this is the participatory process. So it kicked off with an info day where we mapped places and community. So the goals here was to both informing citizens about the project and collecting their personal experiences through a map. So there was a reading, but the memory were collected through postcards. So citizens, participants share their positive memories linked to the volunteering activities in order to contribute to create a collective narrative focused on resilience and the psychological aspects of the emergency. And then, as you can see from this picture, we mapped the key location, public or private, formal and informal, that serve as reference points during those days. So the most important location for the volunteers. After that, there was an internal meeting with the 5 municipal support units for civil protection. And the purpose here was to identify the working tracks and the framework in which solutions are needed and in order to build a better participatory process and meetings. So here we identify 5 thematic areas. So the management of the spontaneous mass of volunteers, the communication between municipality and informal spaces, and also communication and collection of assistance requests from citizens. Then the fourth topic was the support for the logistics for the volunteers, and finally the training both for the volunteers and citizens. So after that, there was the first workshop. As you can see, the primary objective was to engage the community around the process and started to develop these desirable futures and validate and eventually integrate the initial map. So participants were divided into small groups, and they had to let's say imagine the future of Cesena, so the Cesena 2050. They were prompted with guided questions to stimulate the brainstorming and the discussion. And each thematic area that I presented just before was explored further with specific questions on accessibility, gender inclusion, intercultural and generational aspects, people with disability, and people that are affected by the digital divide. And this activity was the journal article activity. There was a first part where participants wrote down on a post-it their ideas and their thoughts about that specific thematic. And then these ideas were shared within the group, and they started a bit of discussion on the envisioned desirable future. And finally, the co-creation of the article. So the group all together draft a new paper telling their desirable future with a title and subtitle. After that, there was the solution co-design. So we aim at refining and consolidating the project ideas emerging from the newspaper. And before this workshop, we had another internal meeting where we review the 6 desirable future and summarize them in 4 key projects. We summarized because these 6 groups, these 6 desirable future overlapped each other, and they have some common ground. So we put together and we identify 4 key project ideas. So there was this one-stop portal for volunteers and boosting their sense of security, the logistical basis, so how to support the volunteers during the emergency, communication tools, and finally the training program. As we can see later, I will go into deep. So the workshop, the first part was the needed competencies analysis. So group selected 3 personas and identifying their needs and competencies to deepen the characteristics of their project. Then there was the ideation part. So groups started to outline the fundamental elements of the ideas and local opportunities. And the third phase was the operational functioning. So each idea was analyzed across 3 moments, operational moments, so peacetime, emergency, and post-emergency, to define the role of that idea within the overall system of crisis management. And finally, the validation. So participants were organized in small group. Each of them represent a role during the 2023 flood or their daily life perspective. So there was the municipality, the volunteers, civil protection association, and so on. And they were they discussed how they would the solution, how the solution would be used by their actors, the role that each actor could play in the system, and they reflected on the factors that could determine success or failure of the solution. And finally, during the presentation of the findings, we create 3 system maps to illustrate the interrelationship among the various actor and project solution. Some policy solutions, so there are some key elements among this solution. So they should work in 3 different moments of crisis. As I said, time, crisis, and after the crisis. They should be integrated to each other, and they were integrated also with the accessibility topics. So very brief, because I have a few minutes. So the information tool for alerting to inform and alert population in emergency situation, combining digital and analog tools such as sound alarms, the portal to collect requests and offers help, and so to ensure effective coordination between citizens, volunteers, and civil protection. The emergency points, so the physical hubs, as the Don Milani hub for the management of the volunteers, to provide logistical assistance, but also psychological support that has emerged as a very crucial topic, both during the data collection, during the meetings. And finally, the training program for the civic preparedness that should be accessible and combining theory, but also field experience. So I will leave the floor to Sofia.
Yes, thank you. We want to share with you some impacts and some results. We can see the presentation. Okay, so regarding the impacts, I will share with you some number of the people and target involved. So we have 40 people participating in each workshop and in the core activities of the process, 300 people participating in the public seminar, 800 high school students participating in a Times Lab dedicated for school. We have also 200 students present in a lab during the final event last week, and 300 volunteers will present, was present in the final event. In terms of impact, we are now updating some tools of the municipality and civil protection system. The first one is the GIS map. We had a GIS map for civil protection, which we have some useful information and areas to provide the civil protection a useful tool to manage crisis. In this map we implemented and we add all the community places, informal places within the district, mapping during the activities with the volunteers. In terms of communication, I know that is absurd, but before the Times Lab, our civil protection plan did not have a communication plan, but now we draft a communication plan. We need to approve this part of the plan to continue to start and continue to work on that. And we are now working on the feasibility technical study to design the emergency unique portal, starting from a website, a portal we used during another emergency of the snowstorm in 2012. So there is a group of department now dealing with this part, and updating these tools. It's one of the main important result of Times Labs. Next slide, please. And to close, I have a couple of slides just to share with you the main lesson learned in this emotional process, because it was also emotional for us dealing with this crisis. When we are dealing with the civic preparedness for future crises, for sure we need the political commitments, because the future crisis involve everyone, every stakeholder in each role, but it's important to stay with the stakeholder, to build a solid regulatory framework from the beginning. In our case, it was very hard to try to detect and to design the workshop topic, starting from the civil protection system. It is very complex and codified system, and it's important to have the commitment of the institutional part to avoid frustration, misunderstanding with people, and we need the active role of the municipality to maintain this kind of horizontal and transparent exchange in this kind of process dealing with a future crisis. Next slide, that is the last slide. Again, for us, one of the key elements was to use a positive approach to think about our future. We live in a complex and a crazy world. So in this kind of exercise with our citizens, we really want to improve feelings, positive feelings, and also to try to give positive results in the hands of people during this exercise. And the second one is the pivotal role of the emotion. In that kind of process, we had a live emotion because the population is fresh. I mean, it's only 2 years, but I think that, and this is a suggestion, also in other cases, starting with personal emotion, it will be a driver also to convey difficult and complex contents in terms of climate change, disaster, and preparedness. And knowing that you are not alone, it's another important positive starting point. It's a key to design a comfortable zone for the stakeholder in that kind of process. So thank you. This is the cover, the final cover. Just the storytelling for a positive future. I want to share with you this book, printed book that we created as one of the output of the process. Here you can see some comics. We distribute the books, and the books, it's like a dictionary of the fluid, in which you have 3 levels of information. You have the personal memories and feelings, you have the scientific board, we have also an interview from Matthias to catch the European level here, and the 3rd layer will be civil protection, best practice to prepare the people. This is one of the pictures that try to summarize the complexity of the process. Thank you.
Thank you both for you, Sofia and Andrea. And we have a question from the chat from Matthias. He would ask you, even if adapting the first site to the local case, how useful they found the approach for policy design, and how people reacted to the use of these participatory tools. And there is another question from my side. You told us that communication was not part of a civil protection process, and you covered this gap. There are any others unimaginated gaps that you are filling and you are covering with this project? Thank you.
Yeah, do you want to answer, Andrea? I will start and you will complete. So regarding the first question, sorry, I just read because it's long questions. Yeah, I think that the 4-site method, it was a back office useful tool for us. And and it was challenging. The most challenging part was the scenario design, but we discussed a lot of that, because I think that foresight, it's a great opportunity to change the cultural behavior, to plan and to work on future. But as a professionist, we need to train. I need to train myself and my colleagues on that more. And the second step is to try to translate the foresight thinking way to the stakeholders. I think this is one step toward Times Lab. We didn't have time to do this kind of translate with our stakeholder because of the situation I tell you. So we have different challenging, and we try to balance and to try to capitalize the approach mainly to design the workshop. But I think it will be very, very interesting to proceed with the foresight method and to try to work on a cultural level with people, try to translate this approach that is, for me, it's mainly cultural, and we need competence for that. So this is linked to the second answer regarding the communication. The region have some institutional channel, but it's not sufficient here. So as a municipality, we really need to work on new tools that will be institutional, because we need to combat also the fake news and misunderstanding in the overlapping of incorrect communication. And another gap was competence. I think we need really psychology, sociology, and not only the technical part of the side, because we prepare for the crisis, to work on the resilience, we really need to create new storytelling, new way to convince people, community, technicians, stakeholder, to try to design a new way to imagine our future. And so in terms of competence, during the process, we need this kind. We have a psychology that's a seminar on the trauma, but we need this kind of competence to read the complexity of the process. And the third gap, and this is a suggestion from our colleagues from Murcia, the policy classification. We need in next month, we need to work to continue to work on the solution, because they are draft now, but we really need to classify, to prioritize these kind of results. So I think it's a starting point. We need a lot of activities to do, but it was really great to have the occasion to do this exercise. It was emotional and very useful for us as municipality.
Thank you very much. And Matthias, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fernando, Andrea, and Sofia, for the presentation of the labs. I think that was quite a rich overview of the activities of both labs, and we will have a conclusion at the end by Fernando about these two. But before reaching there, I would like to introduce Stefan Denberg, who is a student of the University of Groningen. Steph, along a group of other 3 students from the university, they were conducting a research in collaboration with the Future Resilience Project, working also with the testing also new approaches, and he will explain a bit more about the work that they have done, and also looking to study how to understand a bit the topic of societal resilience in a very specific location. So I would just leave the floor to Steph to explain the research that they have conducted early this, end of this year, of last year and the beginning of this one.
Yes, thank you, Matthias. Just a quick check if everyone can see my screen presentation.
Yes, you can see it.
Awesome, great. All right, so thank you everyone for the presentation so far. So my name, as Matthias already said, is Steph, and alongside my fellow students Aisling, Leanne, and Maddie from the Islands Erasmus Mundus Research Master in Groningen. We had the privilege of carrying out a research project with Future Resilience with Matthias as our supervisor. So I'll get right into it. So the title of our research is a Resiliency Profile Exploring Local Perspectives on Climate Vulnerabilities and Resilience in Gran Canaria. So let's get right into it. So our main research question was, how do locals in Gran Canaria perceive climate-related risks and vulnerabilities, and what can enhance their community resilience? I think we all already know what was already abundantly clear in this in the previous presentations, that climate change is a great threat to all countries in the 21st century. But small island states are disproportionately vulnerable to climate change. And while Gran Canaria isn't necessarily a small island state, it does have many of its characteristics, like fragile terrestrial and marine ecosystems, and isolation, and undiversified economies. And previous climate-related research in Gran Canaria specifically focused mostly on tourism rather than on local perspective. So that was kind of the idea, to address this knowledge gap. So our sub-questions were, what are perceived as the most pressing climate-related risks and vulnerabilities to Gran Canaria? And how do locals of Gran Canaria assess the resilience of their own communities in response to climate-related risks? And how can the perceptions of locals be compared to existing policies to support community resilience in Gran Canaria? This is our theoretical background. I won't go into too much detail, as many of you are very much aware of most of these concepts already, but yeah, I'll just quickly go over it. Vulnerability and resilience obviously are inherently interconnected concepts. And the framework that we developed here, that was inspired by two existing frameworks, focuses also on social vulnerability, an independent characteristic of social groups based on inherent social, psychological, and demographic community factors. And it also incorporates perceived vulnerability, which is kind of the center of our research, which highlights the role of community perceptions and how they shape effective policymaking and adaptation processes. And here, this model also emphasizes the connection between the primary components of vulnerability, so exposure, sensitivity, adaptive capacity, where adaptive capacity influences vulnerability and also has a direct impact on enhancing community resilience. So I'll go quickly now over to what we did exactly. So our data collection was done primarily using Maptionnaire, which is a survey that is increasingly being used to record the local perceptions on risk, vulnerabilities, and resilience across space. We carried out this research remotely from Groningen. 3 out of 4 of us are now actually in Gran Canaria as part of our master's program. So before we came here, we thought it would be nice to already get acquainted with the context here, but it was done completely remotely with using Maptionnaire. And the survey itself was distributed in Facebook groups mostly, and also using our connections through university. And the survey itself was divided into sections of climate risks, where respondents were asked to rank the top 2 and or the top and so the second, so the most critical and the second most critical risk according to them, and then followed by their associated vulnerabilities, and then later on also to questions on resilience and how they feel like they were involved in the policy making. And we did our analysis in Maptionnaire itself and also in RStudio. So I'll go over to the results now. So here you can see a heat map of the first section of the survey, where we asked the participants to rank the climate risk for Gran Canaria as a whole, so for the whole island. So this is not community specific, but for Gran Canaria as a whole. And here you can quickly see that heat waves on land, droughts, and forest fires show overlapping perceptions as the top most critical climate change risks, according to the locals. And then rising sea levels, increased frequency and intensity of storms, and ocean heat waves are grouped together in the middle, with coastal erosion being considered the least critical climate change risk to locals for Gran Canaria as a whole. Then if we move on to the next slide, we can see community-specific climate risk rankings. So actually what I forgot to mention is that when we talk about community-specific climate risks or vulnerabilities and resilience, we actually based it on municipalities. So Gran Canaria consists of numerous municipalities. That's also what the respondents saw in the survey that they were filling in. When it comes to community-specific, they just have to choose the municipality that they consider as their community. And for their own community, the most critical risks, again, were heat waves and droughts. And the second most critical were also at number one, heat waves, then also forest fires and droughts. So similarly to Gran Canaria as a whole, those were the three most critical climate change risks for their own communities. And here also the perceived impacted municipalities, we asked respondents to choose which municipality they think are most impacted by the most critical climate change risk that they chose. And it becomes clear that San Bartolomé de Tirajana, which is the southern municipality, was chosen the most, followed by Las Palmas and Artenara. And actually here on the following slide, you can see the spatial distribution of it. This is an example of a map that you can see in Maptionnaire. The darkest municipality in the south, that's San Bartolomé de Tirajana, which was selected the most. And in the northeast, you have Las Palmas. And on the eastern side, you have Artenara and Mogan and Tejeda. So this is a bit of a spatial overview of the bar chart I just showed. Then we also looked into the vulnerabilities. Based on the most critical and the second most critical risk that the respondents chose, we asked them what are the vulnerabilities that concern you the most. And for both the second, so for both the most critical and the second most critical risk, the respondents chose ecosystems and biodiversity as the most critical vulnerability, followed by public health and social welfare, and then water resources and food security. So that is also an interesting finding, that it seems that especially ecosystems and biodiversity was regarded as rather important to the locals. So yeah, one of the most selected vulnerabilities associated with heat waves on land, which as we saw previously was, according to the locals, the most critical climate change risk for Gran Canaria as a whole, but also for their own municipalities, was actually public health and social welfare. So this indicates, concerns surrounding the limited resources of islands and the increased risks of these climate-related threats to already potentially vulnerable communities. And San Bartolomé de Tirajana, so the southernmost municipality that was chosen the most as most vulnerable, reveals how it's connected to tourism. So how local residents feel about this relationship between tourism and climate-related risk. And this area was also recently affected by forest fires. Then on to resilience. So we also asked participants to choose which communities they think are most prepared to their most critical risk and to their second most critical risk. So for the first one, Las Palmas de Gran Canaria was deemed as the most prepared municipality for both respondents' first and second most critical risk, actually, and then by far. And then in the second place, we have Vega de San Mateo and Tejeda, but it becomes clear that Las Palmas was overwhelmingly chosen as the most resilient in this sense. Ingenio was chosen the least. We also asked participants whether they feel involved in the decision-making process regarding both the most critical risk and second most critical risk. And as you can see, this is not the case. Most respondents filled in that they strongly disagree with the statement. So here we identify the clear gap in participatory governance related to climate risks, which is an important finding. So in response, to the forest fire risk, actually, July 2024, a new policy was implemented named Canary Island Plan for Civil Protection and Emergency Care for Forest Fires, INFOCA, and it aims to improve coordination of responses to this hazard across all the Canary Islands And this plan was actually enacted prematurely due to the compounded risk of forest fires as a result of droughts and heat waves, which were recorded earlier in the year due to significantly less precipitation during the winter. This policy was therefore advanced to reduce this risk, and this shows that the government policies were actually forced to adapt with the risk to the climate. We also have the Spain's National Climate Adaptation Plan from 2016, which is quite old, but in there's an emphasis on the importance of public participation with the creation of policy, which encourages an interconnected approach to policymaking and assessment of the effectiveness of policies. And going back to how the respondents chose Las Palmas as the most resilient or the most prepared municipality might be attributed to the fact that the City Council of Las Palmas actually has specific policies to protect citizens from heat, whereas other municipalities do not. So just to wrap up quickly, some key takeaways include that heat waves, droughts, and forest fires are perceived as the most pressing risk according to locals. But important to keep in mind here that this is the perception of the locals. So this is not an objective fact saying that these are the most important climate change risks of Gran Canaria, but this is how the locals perceive it. Locals also perceive Las Palmas de Gran Canaria as the most prepared for climate threats, and San Bartolomé as the most impacted. And lastly, existing policies are adapting to address climate threats, though current policies state that they include citizens' perceptions. Participants of our survey largely state the contrary. All right, so that was a short overview of our research, and I'd like to once again thank Matthias for guiding us through this process. It was really helpful and a great learning experience, and I think my teammates who are also in this call would say the same. So thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Very interesting presentation, Steph. And there is a question from Matthias. He asks you if you could expand more on the designing of the Maptioner.
All right. So wait, let me just quickly grab the question. So if I understand it correctly, it's on whether on why we chose Maptioner to yeah. So we actually had a lot of ideas when we started out with this research project, but it was part of a course that we were doing. So we quickly had to adapt and downscale our research to the credits of the course. At first, we also wanted to do interviews, or that was our starting point. But then through our teacher from the Spatial Sciences faculty of University of Groningen informed us on about Maptioner. And it's increasingly being used in spatial sciences, and the benefit of it is that it's a way of participatory mapping by citizens, citizen science, you could say. It's a form of it. It quickly offers visualizations of any phenomenon really that you want to focus on, and it makes citizens feel involved in the process as well. And I think we also learned a lot using it, and also what not to do in the future. But I think it has a lot of potential for visualizing important trends such as climate change, and also making citizens feel involved in the process. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Just having a quick check if there are any other questions. No. So Matthias, the floor is yours again. And thank you again to all the speakers.
I would say so. Still, there is time if anyone would like to pose any question. We will have now a closing by Fernando with a summary of the presentations and key uptakes. But if you have still any question, you have the time to drop it either on the chat or on the question and answer button. So Fernando, I leave it to you now.
Okay. I was taking some notes and trying to give some structure to make it to explain it now at the end. I think that we see some good example of how a complete adaptation to climate disaster is something really complex, and in fact it's a long-term target, at least in some areas as Cesena, Murcia, or even Gran Canaria, as we say. So I mean, this one reflects one thought or thinking that that also could be paralyzing to face. It's like when you are facing something such a big and it's not easy way to solve, and you know, that can make things, but maybe they are not enough or any of them. So it's something such a big that we don't know also how to start. No? So yeah, that's I think that it could be like a first target, no? That maybe we can say that it's like try to define the different fields of actions, this classification of policies that we're working in Murcia, in order at least to have some order, no, to know, have a like a complete vision of what you can do, no. It's like, I mean, I was thinking in the image of this matryoshka, these Russian dolls, no? That's like a matryoshka, even resilience planning that, okay, we can have as we say somehow, no? It's like maybe I was listening to the people or the colleagues from Cesena, and I say, okay, maybe that could be done also in Murcia after our lab. No, we have something like a more structural, and then we need another lab specifically for the emergency reaction of the city, and then maybe you have another lab for different things. So it's like maybe so that's what could be important. So to maybe to integrate this resilience planning in the like a culture, because it's going to be something complicated and something complex to face. So maybe this target and this to define the different fields of action, and then go working with any of them. Like it could be like this matryoshka's figures. Okay, yeah, and so that I was thinking that even also in a highly adapted city, that is also something like it could happen in Cesena, even if we are really adapted to the climate disaster, that will happen. It's going to happen. So also that's something that could be like different to or difficult to assume that even if you do a lot of things, you are still suffer the disaster. Okay, so in that way also it will be a target that, okay, we need the adaptation of the physical environment of the cities and of our territories to this climate disaster, but also we need this, and it's really important because the disasters are going to happen anyhow. So also to the design adaptation of the emergencies responses. Okay. Yeah, and Sophia also in this way, Sophia also highlighted at the end, like I think it was in one of the answers that he made for the question. It's going to also quite important, the prioritization, like I say, to define, okay, which are the fields, and then where we can start it, which are the actions that are more needed at this moment, no? Because this adaptation is a long-term target. So okay, we have to decide how we can start for that. Okay, in that point, it should be also like another target that maybe is not to wait to the disaster. Okay, try to take the reaction before the disaster. And take the action and work in the resilience. And also, it seems that it should be probably also even cheaper that that rebuilding. I mean, in the case of the flooding that is happening in Valencia at October of the 2024, I read that that the cost of the budget that is estimated to make the rebuild of this part of the city is about 5,000 million euros. With 5,000 million euros, we could take really a lot of action to the adaptation. So maybe if we take action, we don't wait to the disaster, this is going to be something positive. Okay. So yep, and then and also in this way, another target that I will say, the fourth one, is to get that this to involve the society, like make the society taking action. We see also in the Cesena sample in the Times Lab how volunteers could be important in this phase of when the disaster is happening, in the case of emergency, but that needs a preparation before and also afterwards of them. And in the case of Murcia, we see how also we can use the knowledge of the citizens to map and to know what happened in the floodings episode, or how the urban area is adapted or is adapted to the heat waves in the case of Murcia, or even how the floodings how the floodings have affected to the particular area of the city. So there is a part of the maybe of the target is to engage with the society, and also to increase the citizen knowledge of how the hazards affect their environment, and how the mass response when it's a heat wave or when it's a flooding, how they can also work together, not only like individually, but work together. That maybe in that cases they have to take part of the solution, not only to wait to the government response of that, because that's probably, but in some areas at least, it could be like a big response for that. Okay, so yep, that's what I mean. Maybe also Sofia and Andrea or Stefan, you want to add something of this target, no? Okay, that like we need to define fields of action, we need to adaptate physical environment, but also the emergency response. We don't need to wait to the disaster, that as Sofia highlighted, the emotional part of how when you are reacting to the disaster, that could be really more emotional part of the city. Okay, also about the importance of the society or the citizens to take part of the solutions. Sofia, Andrea, do you want to maybe to add something?
Yeah, maybe just one. I would like to highlight one aspect for the part of the emergency, the response to the emergency. I think that we need to implement some strategies, obviously, to adaptate and mitigate. But when it comes to the tools and policies for better response to an adverse event like a flood or an earthquake, it's that there's a layer of difficulty that is the perception. So, for example, in Cesena, what happened is that when there was the red alert, like the maximum level of alarmism for the events, for the climate events, there was already implemented, so the alarming, but there was no clouds in the sky, there was no rain, and so it's difficult for people to think that it could be something very impactful. So a huge rain, maybe if there's sun, there's no clouds, and that's a huge problem, obstacle, I think, besides the more like very, very concrete issue, like I need to spend now in order to something that I don't know when it happens, no? So that's one layer of difficult for like maybe politics, but for everyone. So I need to spend now because in future, so I save money actually, but I need to spend now for something that there isn't, no? So there's one side, and the other, I think that's important to train citizens to think that even we cannot see anything in the climate, in the sky, but it could happen. So when we close schools and there's no raining, but we close the school because we know that it could be a problem, no? And so, yeah, I think that's when it comes to emergency and adaptation, there's these two aspects that are that we must deal with.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. Following this reflection of if like a political level, not that you need to invest in something that is not happening now. At least in our case, that we're also working in the physical adaptation of the city, transformation of the city. We have some reflection that this has other another positive effects, the collateral effects that are not only related to the adaptation, because to have like another benefit because you have this nature-based solution. Also, you have a better environment. There is maybe a cleaner atmosphere in the city. Citizens have this maybe this more proximity to some kind of nature. So, I mean, we were also thinking or talking during the workshop or discussing during the workshop about that. And we also were thinking in the collateral effects. There are another benefit. It's not only the benefit to the climate adaptation of the hazards, even in cases that mean like a political level could be discussed in somehow. Yeah. Also, in our case, and also in the case of Czechenia, I think that we are also not talking about climate change, but also like a climate actual. Maybe it could be worse, but at least there is a reason to take action now, or at least for what is happening now. Of course, that will help also to us or to our cities in the case that we were that the climate were even more extreme situation. Yeah. Also, as part of the project, that it was also this. I mean, this using to the evidence and action and policy that could be based in experience before. It was also. I mean, it was curious to me that the use in the Czechenia case, like some of the policies that we also see that was used in other places, and we include some kind of policy. Of course, you develop this more that we did in our case. So, but I would like to ask you how it was the process to make this adaptation of the policy evidence-based that we see that was happening in another situation to the local situation, and using like the local also stakeholders. I mean, because I mean, I think focus. I mean, mainly if this local or this process in the workshop to define these policies and to refine to the local context what was the value that gives to this new policy or new variation of the policy adapted to the city.
Do you want to? Okay, I just add a few comments on that. I think that the most valuable things is that people really from the bottom up approach, they really try to have they needs in terms of communication, in terms of logistic, in terms of languages, accessibility. So we really put together all these kind of indication and design a draft, as I told you. And for me, well, I participate in a lot of European projects and also in participatory process, but this is one of the most real open process, because as municipality we are shocked like the rest of the stakeholder about the situation. We were lucky in May. I was there, and we in some situation we were lucky, and so it's as a municipality we really at the beginning of the process, as a municipality we don't have a final solution, just a design. I don't know, in some process happened that the municipality for different reasons have just some plan put in a back and then just take. This is not the case. The Times Lab was really an open process, and a lot of colleagues, technicians, well prepared. They are asking them what kind of solution, what kind of scheme of tools they provided, and it was very useful and interesting. So how technicians that usually are closed doing their website or a part of the specific activities in a department want really to open their mind and to link with the other competence in the room. And we have very, very different level of stakeholders, also in terms of cultural resource and understanding the process. So I think it was mainly the process. I mean, the result we need to refine for sure. The policy we need to refine and to prioritize. But there is some concrete activities. So yeah, this, I don't know, it's just a reflection.
Yeah. For us, it was. I think we discover using this future resilient knowledge base, like some action that could be made. But as in the case you are working with climate adaptation, that is really related to the place. You need to adapt to the place and to the society that is existing there, like part of this place. So it's also like a step that you have to be part of the process of the planning of the adaptation strategy and so on. Yeah, that's also like part of the process. It should be also maybe a 5 target, like to include this adaptation of the basic evidence-based solution to the local context. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, maybe we are close to the end of the webinar. Yeah, maybe I just want to finish then. I don't know if Matthias want to add something else, but yeah, I would like to end saying that this was our second webinar. But Matthias also said that we have a third and a fourth, or 2 more coming up, or there's 2 or 3, 2, 3, okay. So the next one is on 26th of June, and it's focused also on urban planning and housing. So it's a part which will be also for sure interesting to the assistants here to webinar, because they are like a field that are related to the one. The college for the multi-local lab and to the liquid housing lab will be the ones that are going to present their experience in that webinar on 26th of June. So yeah, see you then.
Then that's going to be it. So thank you everyone again for joining, and see you the next time for the next webinar. Have a good evening. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you all.